Think of the most successful woman you know, the one who seems to be thriving in her career, in her health and fitness, and her finances, seemingly every area of life. It is so easy to think and believe that this is all because of luck, or that she was gifted with the right kind of personality traits, or that she was blessed with circumstances that made it so much easier for her to get there. But a majority of the difference isn't in luck or any kind of natural ability. It's in mindset. It's in the way she thinks about herself, and challenges and setbacks and growth that allows her to thrive. And that's great news because you can learn to think the same way. In this video, I'll be sharing what I believe are some of the most impactful mindset shifts for anyone who's looking to level up, see more success with their goals, or just move through life from a more empowered place. So let's get into it. Number one is all or nothing thinking, or living in the gray area. One mindset that will absolutely hinder your success in almost any endeavor is all or nothing or black and white thinking. This is the kind of thinking where you're either all in or you're all out. You're either able to do things perfectly or you don't do it at all. Or you make a decision that actually opposes what your goals are. For example, let's say you decide to just start eating healthier, but then you go out with friends and get a burger. Maybe you don't deem a burger as a very healthy meal, so then your brain goes, well, I already messed up. Might as well order dessert too. Or let's say you had a savings goal for the month and you weren't able to hit it. So instead of saving something, you just didn't save anything at all. You're either following a workout routine to a T or you're not working out. And don't beat yourself up if this is one of your tendencies. This is such a normal tendency for all of our brains. It is so much easier for our brains to think this way, to process decisions this way. However, thinking in this kind of way, having this kind of mindset, definitely sabotages consistency, which will hinder your progress. So if you want to be more consistent with something, then practice thinking more flexibly or living in the gray area. And you can do this through just catching and noticing your brain when it starts to go down a route that is more all or nothing. And when you notice your thoughts headed in that direction, you can pause and just go, okay, what might be a decision that's more in the gray area here? How can I choose a more balanced decision here? For example, maybe you had planned for a workout today, and your workout normally takes an hour long, but you really don't have the time for that today. So you could decide, well, I can't do my full workout, so it's just not worth doing. Or you can choose to do 30 minutes of the workout, do half of it. Or maybe you do 15 minutes of cardio if you feel like that's what you have time for. A lot of times, I think this mindset really stems from a place of, well, it doesn't feel enough. Like if the actual decision or action doesn't feel enough to make that much of a difference, then we feel like it's not worth doing it at all. But more often than not, doing something is so much better than nothing, right? If we do something 40%, that's going to get us so much further than 0%. And oftentimes what in our brains we have defined as enough is actually pretty skewed. The tiny actions and shifts and choices still make a huge difference and can get us so much further than just not doing anything at all anytime we can't do it fully, right? Maybe I feel like I have to save at least $1,000 every month for it to feel like I'm actually doing something. But anytime I can't hit that, I just don't save at all. Whereas I could be saving maybe $300 anytime I can't hit that 1,000. And as long as I'm still doing something and doing what I can, I'm going to see my savings grow rather than just not putting anything in. So you can question your all or nothing thoughts and then move to, well, what's one thing I can do, even if it's tiny, to help move me in the direction toward my goal or how I want to show up. Number two is a mindset of let it be boring. If we want to see results with something that requires doing the actions that are actually going to move the needle and doing that consistently and for a long enough duration that we actually see results. It can be really easy to get pulled toward things that maybe offer a big, exciting outcome, like a 30-day detox, something that offers quick results or something that seems just really fun and sexy and exciting. And it can be easier to fall into doing those kinds of things because there's that excitement there with it. And that makes it more motivating. It makes it easier to actually do when that excitement is there. However, we have to watch and make sure we don't fall into this trap because we're either going to be doing things that are more like quick fixes that aren't actually going to get us results. We're not actually doing the things that matter and are really going to make a difference. Or we might find ourselves bouncing from thing to thing to thing, never really sticking with anything long enough to see results. I have been a health and fitness coach for over 7 years, and I can absolutely tell you that the things that you need to do to see results ends up feeling really boring to most people. And over the years, I have seen time and time and time again personal finance experts and business coaches saying, hey, look, the approaches that are actually going to get you the results and outcomes that you want are going to feel pretty boring. It's not the bright, shiny, sexy stuff. It's not doing this one big bold thing or doing this extreme thing. It's showing up and doing the little actions that are going to move the needle day in and day out, over and over and over again. For example, if you want lasting, sustainable results, then the 30-day detox, the flashy 6-week workout plan that promises abs at the end of it, or trying to time the market perfectly to make the most amount of money possible is not going to be what's going to get you there. It's the weekly showing up to prepping food so that you have healthy food ready to go at home. It's finding the workout program that works for you to show up week after week. It's automating your savings, dollar cost averaging into an index fund, setting up a system where you reach out to 2 networking contacts every single week. And by boring, that doesn't mean, it not being enjoyable or not allowing it to be fun. I would actually recommend trying to find ways to bring more fun and joy into these kinds of actions as much as possible. But it's really just about, hey, it's not about the flashy things over here, the big, exciting, extreme things. It's day in and day out, every single week, showing up to the things that are actually going to move the needle and continuing to do that, even if it doesn't feel very exciting or motivating, right? We're creating this foundation of how we live our life to set us up for sustainable, lasting results for the rest of our life. Number 3 is shifting from a mindset of punishment to a mindset of nourishment. I think when it comes to things like eating healthier and working out and watching how you spend your money, managing your money, having work boundaries, showing up to specific work tasks, there is this general narrative around it being something that we have to force ourselves to do, that we have to, find a lot of discipline to do. There's this sense of drudgery to it and maybe even an air of punishment sometimes. It feels like a chore. I have to make myself do this. But when that's the mindset that we are in, we are creating so much resistance to those kinds of actions. And we're likely creating a negative relationship with those things, which definitely does not benefit us. So instead of seeing these kinds of things in that more negative light, we can shift our mindset to viewing it from a different place. We can look at it from the lens of why we want to do it. Because here's the thing. If you have certain goals, if you want to see a certain outcome or change in any area of your life, then at least a part of you wants to do the things that are going to make that happen. And we can lean into that version of us, that part of us. We can shift from this place of, I have to make myself do this. This is a chore to, I actually want to do this because I want to show up for myself. I can use this as a way to show love and respect to myself. And that's the nourishment aspect. We're coming at it from a place of, I'm doing this for myself. I want to do this for myself. And at the end of the day, every action and decision comes with a pro and a con. And we can either be so focused on how we don't want to do that thing or why we don't want to do it, or we can shift our focus to why we do want to do it. And we can even use this as a way to nurture our relationship with ourselves by just showing up for ourselves and making decisions that show ourselves love and respect. We can't really change the things that will create change in our lives. For example, I can't just snap my fingers and suddenly eating chocolate chip cookies all day is how I'm going to end up being healthy and fit, but we can absolutely change our relationship with those actions and how we view them. And doing so will help us show up way more consistently and help us move toward the direction that we actually want to be going. Number 4 is self-responsibility and developing an internal locus of control. So to put pretty simply, an internal locus of control is the belief that your actions and decisions are what shape the outcomes in your life rather than external circumstances. So really, it's all about taking radical responsibility for the things that you can control, which includes your perspectives, your mindsets, your actions, your decisions, and your attitudes. And really, to me, the big difference really is in not blaming other things or really leaning into excuses to justify your attitude, your choices, or the outcomes or results that you have in your life. So, for example, let's say at work, maybe you find yourself blaming your super busy schedule or your boss's crappy attitude or the inefficient system that your company uses for why you're not performing very well. Those factors might be real, but instead of focusing on things you can't really control, you can shift your focus to what you can. You can shift your focus to, well, how can I be showing up better? What skills can I be improving? What kind of solutions can I be finding here? How can I improve the attitude that I show up with? Or let's say you're struggling with money and you say, well, the economy is really crappy and I was never taught how to manage my money. So I was just dealt a crappy hand. Or you can say, you know what? I don't really want to keep with the same outcomes that I have right now. So what can I do to move myself forward? How can I improve my financial literacy? I can go buy a book. I can watch some YouTube videos. What can I start doing or I start learning to improve my skills with money to help myself have a better situation? Or maybe you decided to start eating healthier and then you go to a wedding and you overindulged. You could say, well, I was at a wedding. I had no control over the food there. So it's just, what happened. That's taking no responsibility for yourself and your own decisions. So on the other side, we can say, you know what? I've been eating pretty well. I've been making changes to my diet. And while I was at this wedding, I was having a lot of fun and I definitely overindulged. That's a whole lot different than saying I had no control. I had no choice. We can really hold ourselves back so much when we blame circumstances or luck or other people in our lives for what's going on in our life. And it is not empowering to think and feel like the world is working against you. But so much can change when we really step into that seat of taking responsibility for what we're doing and what we can do to actually change our circumstances. So if you notice your brain starting to go down the path of blame or focusing on some kind of excuse, shift it to, well, what could I be doing better? How can I be showing up better? What could I be improving on? As well as taking accountability for the decisions that you do make. Number 5 is embracing failure and challenges. How we approach these two things and how we let them affect us makes a massive difference. You can have a natural tendency to avoid failing and messing up or making some kind of mistake. And then if you do, that might lead you down a hole of negative self-talk, feeling really bad about yourself or feeling inadequate in some way. And if that is a tendency for you, please don't feel really bad about yourself for that. I think that's a natural tendency for most of us, as are pretty much everything I'm talking about in this video, hence why we're making this video. It is such a normal reaction, but it also tends to backfire, right? It can make us lose confidence in ourselves or confidence in a specific area of life. It can lead us to feel really discouraged. It can lead us to not show up very great. Maybe it even creates a negative relationship with whatever thing we are trying to improve at. But failure is going to happen. Messing up and making mistakes is going to happen. That's not something that we're getting rid of. So what we can do instead is reframe the way we see failure. We can welcome it. And instead of seeing it as this negative, bad thing, we can actually see it as a good thing, because ultimately failure does have so many benefits. We can learn so much more from the times that we fail than the times that we just did things great. We gain so much more wisdom through it. We have a much deeper understanding of, whatever that thing was that we are failing in. And all of that just helps us get better. So instead of viewing failure as something negative or as some kind of proof of inadequacy, when you do fail or mess up, think, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to help me grow? And the same goes for challenges, right? I think it's so easy for us to sit here and go, yeah, of course, challenges make us better. And to even think that we'll happily take on a challenge. But what do we do when a challenge actually arises? Do we have a tendency to try to avoid it or back down from it or paint it in a negative light, to not trust ourselves, or to just see it as something that we just have to endure. And again, that's just a natural human tendency, but if we want to see ourselves expand and grow, we have to be willing to face challenges and actively choose to climb those mountains. So we can reframe challenges when they present in our lives to see them as an opportunity to level up, to get better. We can see it doing hard things as a sign of growth, as a way that we are stretching ourselves. And depending on your personality, maybe it feels better and more fun to view whatever specific challenges come into your life as just a new level in the video game that you are trying to get past. So when it comes to failures and challenges, we don't have to see them in such a negative light as maybe, again, our tendency is. And we can instead reframe them to be something that's good because it's helping us grow. It's helping us get better. It's helping us improve our life. Number 6 is a mindset of I can show up even when I don't feel like it. Something I think it is so useful to understand is how much your thoughts play a role in your actions. So the things we tell ourselves really makes a difference. The real mindset shift here is moving away from the thoughts and beliefs that, well, I'm someone who just doesn't have any willpower. I'm not a disciplined person. If I don't have any motivation, then I can't get myself to do it. 2, telling yourself and believing I can do things even when I don't feel like it. I can show up for myself even if it's not quite what I want to do. I can do things even when I don't feel motivated. I can find ways to motivate myself, right? What we tell ourselves, what we believe about ourselves makes such a difference. And so telling yourself, well, I just don't have any willpower, I have no self-control, is not doing you any favors. We can choose what we tell ourselves and we can choose what we want to believe about ourselves. And it's not that maybe we tell ourselves this today and then expect that we'll forever be a brand new person, someone who always shows up to doing the thing. But it's really more about a practice. Practicing coming back to telling yourself, wait, no, I can show up to doing hard things. I can do this thing even if I don't feel like it. I can do this thing even if I don't feel motivated. And doing that over and over and over again until that's what becomes more natural to you. And kind of bouncing off of that, number 7 is believing you can change. Knowing and understanding that you are not fixed as you are, that you can change how you think, you can change your habits and your lifestyle and your mindset and your attitudes. You can build new skills. You can become the version of you who is great with your money, who enjoys a healthy lifestyle, who's thriving in her career. And neuroscience backs this up. If we look at neuroplasticity, it says, we can rewire our brain. It all comes down to what we're practicing, what we're doing more often. The things that we've been doing for a long time, including how we think, have created really strong neural networks in our brain, but we can always change those just by practicing something different over and over again. And we can lean into Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset. A fixed mindset is this belief that we just are who we are. We're either good at something or we're not. Whereas in a growth mindset, we have this mindset of, well, I can improve through effort and learning, right? We can be stuck in this mindset of, well, I'm just not disciplined enough to work out. Or we can choose a mindset of, you know what? I just haven't built the skills or found the routine that actually works for me yet. We can believe I'm just bad with money. Or we can choose a mindset of, I can learn more about personal finance and I can practice doing things differently. Don't let old beliefs about yourself dictate your future. And don't let a past identity be what holds you back from creating a new one, right? The narratives that we tell ourselves really are so important. And if we don't believe we can change, then it's going to be 10 times harder to actually make changes. So just notice and catch yourself when your brain is going in that direction of, well, I can't because, or focusing on where the odds are stacked against you, or focusing on evidence of why it probably won't work out for you. Being focused on the struggle, right? Noticing those thoughts, because ultimately we're going to have those kinds of thoughts. The brain is wired to look for those things. But instead of entertaining them and being focused on them, we can shift our focus into, well, I believe I can change. I'm choosing to believe in myself. I'm choosing to believe that I can figure this out. I'm choosing to believe that I can show up differently. And I promise you, changing that mindset alone can make such a difference in how you show up. So I might be biased, but I think this video is so helpful in capturing the mindset shifts that through my lived experience and my research are some of the most impactful mindset shifts you can make. But that being said, we can all sit here and consume this information, and it can all make sense, but that doesn't mean that we are going to suddenly go out into the world and be this new version of us and automatically think so much differently. Hopefully this video alone did change some of your perspectives and made some kind of a shift just automatically. But I also want to set the expectation that our brain is programmed to just naturally fall into what it's most used to doing, how it's most used to thinking. So the goal here is not to never have those thoughts and mindsets that fall into the more disempowering mindsets or the ones that are keeping you stuck. But the real key is in noticing when your brain is starting to go in that direction and choosing to actively reframe them. Practicing thinking differently, practicing taking on new mindsets and perspectives, and doing things differently and out of your norm. And sometimes this can be fairly easy. Other times it's not. But one of the things that can really help is to take on a new identity. So when you find yourself in those types of moments, you can choose to act more like a different version of yourself, to act like a future version of yourself. It can also be really helpful to think of a specific example in your life that you feel like embodies these types of mindsets and lean into being kind of like them. Use it as a act as if. And this really just helps pull you out of like your own brain and its own stuff, or pull you out of its autopilot tendencies to make it easier to think a little bit differently. And then outside of that, you can come back to this video over and over and over again, because our brains need so many reminders to show up differently, to just help remind your brain how you want to be thinking, the kind of mindsets that will help you be more successful in the ways that you want to. So with that, if you enjoyed this video or got some kind of value out of it, make sure to hit the like button. It helps so much. If you are looking to level up your life in some way, become a more empowered version of yourself, or live a more intentional, aligned life, then make sure to subscribe for future videos. And let me know in the comments, which mindset stood out the most to you? Which one do you think is going to be the most impactful for you? I would love to know. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.